This episode is brought to you by 365 Connect, the world's most advanced automated marketing and leasing platform built to keep your communities running 24/7, totally hands-free. Be sure to check out UnitRev, their AI-powered platform that creates and posts real-time content across search and social using live property data. It's redefining how communities attract and convert renters. It's a total game changer. I've seen it in action, and it's impressive. Visit 365connect.com today and tell them Mike sent you for a 30-day free trial. Okay, it's that time of the week again where you grab your favorite beverage. For me, it's Perk, and it's Brazil, smooth and nutty. That is the roast. This is compliments of one half of the Multifamily Weekend Update crew, Eric Sharp, and his pal Justin. Justin wasn't responsible for the coffee, but Eric was. But anyway, not the point. Grab your favorite beverage, settle in for this well-rounded conversation that I had with Misty Haskins. This was fantastic. She has recently joined Tailoring Residential in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we had the opportunity to catch up, and we talked a little bit about the history that she went through leading up to this moment in time where she is a leader in the multifamily real estate business. Time spent at RKW, but present day at Kairos. She unpacked a lot of leadership lessons that are near and dear to my heart. One of them being servant leadership, the other being culture of learning or learning and development, and everything that is related to coaching and mentoring and teaching and training. And the through line was really about leadership and how people in her past have influenced her and fed into her, and how she has now taken those lessons and employed them in her leadership journey, in her leadership career. So I'll stop there because you're really going to want to hear from her and know more from me. Thanks, Eric, again for the coffee, and enjoy this conversation with Misty Haskins. Misty, welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I love talking about property management, and I love talking about two people who work in property management, asset management, about the business. So where do we find you today?
Today I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. I live in Gastonia, about 15 minutes south of Charlotte.
Okay, all right. And I hear from weather reports it's supposed to get really crazy later.
All the milk and bread is gone, so toilet paper too. So I'm going to assume that we're preparing for snowpocalypse over here.
Yeah, same for us down here in Atlanta. It's It's interesting. I know we were talking before we hit the record button that the whole city, whole state shuts down if we have even a hint of snow coming our way.
Yeah, it's more for the driver's safety because people can't drive when it's not snowing. So you add snow and ice in the mix, and it's just a bad combination.
True statement. True statement. All right. I wanted to dive right in. You had an interesting start to your career. I did a little bit of research. Actually, I did a lot of research about you. And one of the things that was striking to me is that you entered into the industry, and you were in the industry a very short time on the property management side, and then transitioned almost immediately to the asset management side, or at least my research tells me so. So do you want to unpack that for us?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I started in the industry as a leasing consultant back in 2014 with a local owner called Southwood Realty. Southwood Realty at the time was they still are, the largest property management company in Gaston County. And at that time, I had decided that I wanted to work a little bit closer to home and not go into Charlotte because, there's a big time constraint with traveling into Charlotte every day. And so during my work with Southwood Realty, I was promoted fairly quickly into a multi-site property manager role within the first year of working with Southwood, and had the opportunity to really just build my foundation of what I was going to do in my career. Had the opportunity to work at some of their most prestige lease-ups in Gaston County. They were one of the only property management companies at that time that had lease-ups in Gaston County. And had the opportunity to work at two of the nicest communities in Gaston County before I decided to hop over to the third-party world. And that was different. It was a big shake for me. It took a little bit of acclimating. Most of the time people say, well, you can get used to it in 30 days or 60 days. Like there was legit 6 months that I was trying to just figure out the nuances. Third party and owner managed organizations are vastly different. And there was a big knowledge curve for me there. And so joined Pinnacle, which was later acquired from Cushman and Wakefield. And that was really where I had the resources and industry contacts to start building my career. I built the foundation at Southwood Realty and was very grateful to have that opportunity. But the real launch of my career was with Pinnacle, Cushman and Wakefield. And had just so much opportunity with them, was able to even meet the CEO, which was Rick Graff at the time. And how many people can say that they've met a company CEO working at a little property in Gastonia that was less than 200 units?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I went through the COVID phase, and that was really hard for a lot of people, especially those that were boots on the ground. We were essential workers. We were doing whatever we could to keep people in their homes while also trying to balance out the fact that most of us still had mortgage interest payments that we had to pay for our owners. And it was a big balancing act, and successfully made it through COVID, which, there's still some legislation, out there is still, in the assumption that we're still in COVID. But then had an opportunity to step into a regional manager role, which is what I've always wanted to do. And it's funny that I say always wanted to do, because I went back to school while I was working with Pinnacle and Cushman and Wakefield and said, I'm going to get my degree and get out of property management. COVID has burnt me out. I can't do it. It's really challenging. And then, of course, the demographic of the community I was at was a challenge in itself. So, I'm 6 months away from getting my bachelor's degree from Belmont Abbey College, which is located in Belmont, right, 10 minutes south of Charlotte, and said, I'm going to find me something else. And all of a sudden I get the regional manager opportunity. And I'm like, how can I pass this up? And started realizing I don't even know where I'd go. I don't know what I would do. Realized very quickly that there wasn't a lot of career paths that had the same opportunities as property management. So,
that's right.
Joined a smaller local firm called Wellington Advisors and worked in the third party space for a little over 2 years before I joined RKW, which was in October of 2022.
Got it. If you were looking back to the beginning, you obviously had some aspirations. You wanted to grow, but you fast forward to today. If you were advising that younger version of yourself as it relates to the journey that you took, about some of the things that you might have done differently or you might have doubled down on, what would those things be?
One thing that I wish I would have done a little bit earlier in my career is be more involved with my local and state and national level apartment associations. At the time, I had not been as involved, and it was a little bit more difficult to be involved because, most of the events were Charlotte based, and still for the most part are Charlotte based. And so working in Gastonia, an event that may only be an hour long, it was, well, I have to make the 30-minute commute there. And then I need to make, it's probably a 45-minute commute back. And I didn't realize I would probably say in the first 5 years of my career, how important it was to be an active member of the associations. I was a stagnant member. I went and gotten my CAM credential, and was very excited about that, but I didn't really participate. I was a member, but I was not, active
Sure.
in my membership. And so if I could have done that earlier on in my career, I could have likely opened the doors for what was next earlier in my career.
Definitely, yeah. There is, National Apartment Association, all the state chapters of the National Apartment
Yeah.
Association, even on the IRM side, there are so many incredible organizations that provide education. But I think, and I don't know if this was your experience, the networks that you can create, the people that you meet, is where the real value lies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And when I jumped to the third party side, I realized that most of the members of the association were on the third party side.
Mm.
And, was really able to just learn a lot about other companies. You know, I had one of my best friends works for Greystar, and she was telling me, all the awesome things since she had joined that company. I had a friend that worked for RKW early on. And so it was just so neat to be able to hear their stories and how they were able to be involved with the association. And literally, they would go to events and opportunities would be discussed, and people were speaking, their names in rooms that they weren't even in and saying, "Hey, do you
Right.
know this person from this property? They're ready to be a property manager. They're ready for this lease up." And I got a little jealous. I was like, okay, I want my name to be in those rooms too. And so,
Yeah, it's very valuable in that respect. Not just for job opportunities, but certainly for resources as it relates to running properties or different ways of doing things or best practices and things like that. Let's segue to leadership. My imagination tells me through those organizations and certainly through your growing up in the industry, and that is to say, getting experience in the industry, you have developed a leadership style for yourself. And I'm curious what that is, and then how you take that leadership style and imbue it on other people or help teach and train and mentor other people.
yeah, I love that question, because I think it's a two-faced question in a few ways. One being my leadership style is humorous. I like to lead through humor. And I say that because very often I can see or feel burdens that, team members may have put on themselves. And I'm like, I know I did not put that burden on you. So why are you, tell me a little bit more about why you're feeling that way. And anyone that has worked with me will tell you I will laugh in the most serious conversation or make a joke, because to me, that's the easiest way to get that quick dopamine boost, pause, and then
Mm.
segue back into, what do we do now? And so I try to lead with humility, and lead with humor. But secondly, one thing I can say about my leadership style is that I lead people individually, because everyone's journey is different, and how everyone receives communication is different. And that's probably the biggest thing I can say about leadership is that how you lead one person may not be how another person needs to be led. And we come from various paths of life. We went through different things, and that all impacts someone's ability on how they perceive your leadership. And so, I've had teams up to 30 and 40 different employees, between site employees and regional managers. And I try to take the time to figure out what each person, what is most important to each person. A lot of times people say, oh, well, this person's motivated by money. Some people may be motivated from recognition. Some people are motivated from just feeling like they're needed and wanted. And so I really try to understand that with my teams, and so that I can lead them in the way that fills their cup too.
That it's interesting. One thing I heard in there that I really love. There are people who are motivated by money and other things that are sort of monetarily related, but just being seen and heard sometimes. You can't underestimate the value of just sitting with someone and just listening. They're not asking you to solve their problems. They just want to be heard. They just want to be listened to, or they just want to be seen and acknowledged as just as a human. And that has value.
It does. And I think it's more about just listening. And early on in my career, when I was more aggressive and, just ready, more assertive, ready to go to the next phase and impatient,
Mm,
um, I realized just the older that I got and the more that I had been involved in the industry and led different teams that I needed to work on my listening skills. I was like, I don't listen very well. And that was a rude awakening for me as a leader because as most leaders, they know that they have a lot of knowledge. But I realized that my fault wasn't in the knowledge. My area of opportunity was and how I listen to those that I work with and collaborate with.
most definitely. Yeah. It is likely the hardest lesson to learn as a leader. And I think that's a nice segue to something else that when I was going through and researching, you have a passion for training and developing, or it's called mentoring, coaching, whatever it is. I'm curious about that, but I'm actually curious about who or what it was that prompted you to be excited about training and developing and the passion that you created for it.
Yeah. Um, that's an interesting question for a few different reasons because I think there were different influences in each phase of my career. One of my very first mentors that I still just think so highly of, her name was Delilah Freeman. She worked with Southwood Realty. I believe she just celebrated like a 20 or a 25th year anniversary with them.
Oh, oh wow.
And she was on site. She was actually my first property manager and allowed me the opportunity to step into the industry. And just watching her over the years, she was promoted into an employee training and development manager within their organization and is still there. And I got to kind of silently watch from the sidelines recently as she led a huge project with them from their property management software conversions. And I thought that was cool. They were converting from, I can't recall what they were converting from. It's been several years, but they were converting to RealPage. And I got to kind of
Mm.
watch from afar as she led the charge on that. And her team, she has a team, of course. So I thought that was super neat. And then secondly, there was a regional manager I worked with that just knew how to motivate you. And she didn't have to do it with money. She knew how to motivate you with just her presence and her words. Her name was Adrienne Smith. She was just a rock star. Um, and I still to this day just think the absolute world of her. She shortly thereafter stepped into I assume early retirement. She now is doing what she wants to do. But she was just someone that taught me so much, and because she taught me so much, I wanted to teach others and realized quickly that what I knew I needed to teach to someone else because I can't take someone else's position if there's nobody to take my position. So then I poured all the knowledge that I had into my assistant manager because I said, when I leave, I want this to be yours. Um, and it was. And that person has now worked with me at 3 different companies and
Oh,
also works with RKW to this day as a senior property manager. And so um, just being able to contribute to people in a way that I know I was a part of the next phase of their career. And that was one of the things at being a regional at RKW. I started out as a regional, was promoted to a senior regional, promoted to an AVP, promoted to a director. So I had a lot of great opportunities there. I'm very thankful for the team that believed in me and gave me those opportunities. But when I was sitting down and thinking about my different successes, one thing I thought about, I started naming everyone that I had been at least a contributing factor to the next phase of their career. Not necessarily I wasn't the one who hired them or gave them that promotion, but I was able to name, 8, 9 people that I had been a part of, helping them elevate their skills to make it to the next level of their career.
It's to me, it's I've been in the business roughly 30 years, and over that course of time, I made observation that those brilliant leaders in our business, the best testament of their brilliant leadership is how many people have been right sprouted
Yeah.
by their presence, by their knowledge transfer, and all those sorts of things. It's the best testament. I I have this just came to mind weirdly, but I read something about Funnel Friday. Is that what it's called? Funnel Friday?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
that something you could tell us about? I don't know why that
Absolutely.
popped in my head.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to share about that. So,
Excuse me.
that was probably one of the top 3 accomplishments that I had at RKW. And I want to preface that by saying I don't like saying I had, because it was really a company initiative to improve our conversion ratios and our operations in Funnel, which is our CRM software that we utilized. I'll
Got
give a
it.
huge shout out to Funnel here. I absolutely love their product. It is just top notch for sure and provides just fabulous reports. But one thing that I quickly realized, and I was about little before a year being in at RKW, is I realized that we had this great CRM that had so many functions and people knew how to do the basic stuff. Um, but what they didn't know how to do is they didn't know how to take the data from their day-to-day actions and make business plans and make suggestions and strategy off of those reports.
Hmm.
So, leasing consultant A, just using someone for an example, didn't understand the impact of what they're doing on the day to day to provide the data that we need to create a strategy so that we can get leases or retain residents, whatever that may be, or change our marketing plan. And so the initiative was originally, it was just something I did with my properties and my managers. And then all of a sudden, my manager said, "Hey, I have leasing consultants or assistants that need this knowledge too." So I did it internally and started sharing, like, "Hey, y'all, I'm doing this funnel Friday thing every other Friday. I'm training my teams." And all of a sudden, it spread like wildfire. I started doing it with regional managers, started doing it with other regions, and then eventually it, expanded to where it was an entire, company initiative. And we started that at the end of, oh, I'm sorry, April 2024. April of 2024, it was a great opportunity to not only meet new employees, but it was a great opportunity to shout out those teams that were doing the right things. So we'd start off every Funnel Friday. I would list the properties that were hitting their KPIs and give them some recognition and say, "Look, if you need help on this, this is who you need to contact because these people are doing it." But I think we're in the world of where we get caught up with using all these softwares and we know how to do the basic functions, but we don't know how to take the data that these softwares provide us and make strategy and informed decisions off of the data. And that's the most key component of using all this, is to utilize it to create a strategy. And so I had the opportunity to lead over 500 different team members over the course of, it was about 20 months of Funnel Fridays. I did it every other Friday for an hour, and it was very impactful. Oftentimes had team members that were states away that would reach out to me and say, "Hey, can you give me this quick update on Funnel? Or can you tell me why mine doesn't look like yours? Why is this not working for me?" And come to find out that, it was just a knowledge thing. And we rely so heavily now as an industry on AI training and video training. And some people need a different form of training.
Yeah.
Some people need in person training. They need live training. And I think that's why this initiative was so successful. It was live training. We were looking at real time data and we were talking about decisions that we would make if we pulled this report and it showed ABC. What does that mean? How do you fix this? And it was just a great initiative. Funnel even stepped in and gave me some additional updates that we would share whenever they would have new rollouts of new initiatives. They sent me swag that I actually gave to one of the team members that had the highest conversion ratios. And, we just had so many team members working in Funnel that just didn't know the importance of every move that they do in the software. And it was, like I said, probably one of the top three of my biggest accomplishments. And glad to hear that the initiative is still being carried on. And I mean, I love to see people who are confident and comfortable in using our softwares that we have, that we utilize, because there's a reason that we've chosen that specific software. So
Yeah, you hit a lot of very important points there in terms of, it's one thing to sit in a boardroom and make a decision to implement a technology. It's quite a different thing. And just assume that it's, people are just going to pick it up and make it work. It's quite a different thing to teach, train, and mentor and coach people to use it so that it has the highest impact in the organization. So kudos to RKW for allowing you that space, and then for you to just run with it and blow it up into a thing. It brings to mind, in a learning culture, which I imagine you very much subscribe to, if reinforcing learning in a learning culture and recognizing people, how much of an impact did you make when you would recognize people for, like, calling out the winners and the people who are doing best practices and doing it really well? Was the result of that, like, just lighting the flame, so to speak, in other people?
I think the result of that was letting those teams know that, hey, I may not be your direct report. We may not even work in the same city or state, but I see the
Yeah.
success that you have. I
Yeah.
want to, if you're not getting those kudos from whoever, which sometimes that does happen,
Sure.
if you're not getting those kudos, I'm going to give you those kudos because I know that it starts here. I know that your leasing success starts from this KPI. And, it was cool to see the different names week over week in the different properties. And you could, obviously there's a top of the list and a bottom of the list. And it was cool to be able to see the ebb and flow of this person was the top, in the top three 2 months ago, and we didn't see them for a few months, and all of a sudden they're number three again, and they're really focusing on these. So I just felt like, these are KPIs that we may not monitor and may fall off a little bit more
Sure.
than other things because we're so focused on occupancy and delinquency. We may not realize our conversions. And that I see you, that, if anyone sees you, I see you. And I've shared that with your superiors so that they see you too. So,
I love that. I
yeah.
love that. Okay, so you shared this incredible accomplishment as it relates to the Funnel Friday and the results of Funnel Friday. My imagination tells me on the other side of that coin, there might be some challenges that you've been presented over the course of the time you've been in this industry. I'm wondering if you would highlight, if you can bring it to mind, the most difficult challenge you had to go through and how it may have informed the way that you led on a go forward or managed on a go forward, or just how it changed you as a person and how you showed up the day after you went through this hard challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, for obvious reasons, most of our challenges do come from the fact that at the end of the day, we are still providing a basic essential need to a
Mm,
human. And anytime that someone has went through a traumatic experience or a casualty, whether it's fire, flood, sewage, whatever that may be, there's a lot of heightened emotions, rightfully so. If it was our home, we would feel the same. And over the course of working with different assets and different property management companies. I think the biggest challenge that, I see is that we have so many admin day-to-day things that have to be done, but overall we're still the people on the forefront. We're still the front lines. And if that, really upset resident who just lost everything needs 30 minutes to an hour to vent and to speak with me or whoever, um, I'm going to give that to them because I would want the same. But that doesn't mean that this report's not due. And that doesn't mean that this task isn't due and that this client doesn't need this from you. So, I like to always encourage people to um, be present first. Be present, be a human first. Be compassionate first. That report has no emotions. It might be due, but it doesn't have any emotions attached to it. And, I think anyone in, most of these on-site roles, you're in a servant capacity and you're there because you likely like to be in a servant capacity.
That's right.
And so, I always encourage companies, organizations, associations to continue to provide resources for those people that go through those difficult times, because sometimes we're so busy putting on the hat for the 15 residents that we're dealing with that we don't take the time to address our own mental health, which has its own stigma in the industry. We don't take the time to take care of ourselves because we're taking care of everyone else all day, our residents, our clients, our supervisors, our vendors, our prospects, you name it. We're taking care of them. And, we want to make sure to support our teams in the same way that they support our residents.
So true. And you said something there that really touched me in that it's a servant's heart, right? And you sound like a servant leader. And so the question that comes to mind for me is that, and I generally couch this in, if I were to ask you who your hero and or heroes are in the world for you personally, if you don't mind talking about who those people are, and then is that where your servant's heart came from that you employ today?
Yeah. My hero is my dad.
Uh,
I was raised by my dad. He was a single father that raised me and my brother. And um, we never went without. And looking back now, I'm like, how did we do all this stuff? How did we afford to go on all these trips? How did we afford the pool in the backyard and all of these different things? And so, yes, in a way, that did come from my dad because he always made things happen. And as children, we don't understand the sacrifices and don't see it as far as what and how. But now, obviously, that I'm adult, I'm like, how in the world did he pay for daycare for 2 kids? And I knew he worked 6 days a week. I could remember that. And he always told me, I don't want you to go through the challenges and the struggles that and so, I attribute all of that to him, my hard work ethic, my I'm going to figure it out and get it done because truth be told, I don't know how some of the things, I don't know how he made some of those things work. And he's still, we're still very close. Even I'm an adult and I still talk to him very frequently. Um, and my brother as well. We're a pretty close, tight knit family. So, I guess you could say on the personal side and on the family side, it was definitely my dad. And then secondly, on the work side, there's someone that I've always just adored from afar, that I had the opportunity to work for a few years, and that was the CEO of RKW herself, Miss Marcy Williams. who is just a powerhouse in the industry.
Yeah.
If you know anything about her, you know that um, she can turn anything into gold. And for a long time, I wanted to join RKW even as a property manager, and timing didn't align or location didn't align. And so when I had the opportunity to join as a regional, I was thrilled to say that I get to work with her on a daily basis. Um, and she has also moved on to different facets of her career. But I just love watching her work. If you need that strong mentorship, that is her. Um, and anytime that I needed that extra layer of support, she was there and she knew what to do. She knew what to say. Um, and she is without a doubt one of the most intelligent people I've ever had the pleasure of working with.
I love that. I appreciate you sharing both of those stories. I think, the thing I've learned over doing, I don't know, 250 or 300 of these interviews is that it's, it's really the sort of the personal nature of stories that really impact people, and that those are those lessons that we take from them that they employ in their own lives. So I really appreciate you being vulnerable enough to do that.
Yeah.
Um, Out of all the experiences, if you were to think about a leadership trait that is let's say it's impossible to teach or train or mentor and coach, but it's very important in what we do. What is that trait? You can, it's very hard to teach, but if you find it, you know what it is. Can you name it?
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to say ambition. You can't
Mhm.
teach someone ambition. They have to want it or they don't want it. If it's important to them, they'll have the ambition. And in my role, I've worked with several different kinds of leaders, and sometimes you can't motivate someone to do something and to make a certain goal or to meet a certain goal if they just don't want it to.
Mm.
Um, and they have to be as hungry for the success as you are. So it's important for you to work with people that are aligned with your common goal and that want to get there with you, because anybody else is just holding you up from the goal.
Excellent. I have just a couple of more questions for you. The the main one is, you've enjoyed a lot of success in your career. My imagination tells me, just based on what I've learned from you over the last 35 minutes plus minus, you certainly have your sights set on the next, whatever it is, accomplishment that you want to achieve in the industry or as a person. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah. Um, I guess I can say that I hit the accomplishment that I had even 30 days ago, in making, this career change at the beginning of the year. Um, One thing that I had shared right at the beginning of December, so it's interesting that you said this, is that I had shared that I wanted to work in client development and client experience. And so, the second week of December comes around. I'm speaking with the organization I've joined, and kind of just shared, my desire to be on that side of the business. And then it came through. I spoke it into existence.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
funny how that works, right?
we spoke about, the position is this, but we actually have this position, and we can actually make these positions kind of serve hand in hand because we need both. And I felt like that was not only God's way of telling me that this was meant to be, but I also felt like that that was my opportunity to step into the role of working on the client services side and working on the business development side. So it's funny you say that because I'm still getting acclimated, and thankful for this achievement. Um, but I'll say, pro- professionally, my next goal is to um, step into the executive committee for the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association. I do sit on the board and have sat on the board. This is my second year. So it would be great to have Cairo Residential represented in the president's seat. And it would be the first Cairo representative I am the first that is representing the board, but it would be the first in the president's seat. So for the GCAA. So I think that's great. And then personally, um, I'm not sure. I took up running about 18 months ago, I would say. Have ran several half marathons, 10Ks, 15Ks, and it's funny that, we're talking about all this because the people that I run with are in this industry. We have our own run group. It's called Multifamily Milers. Look it up. Yes. And so this year, I guess you'd say personally, my goal is to continue to grow our group and promote health, promote movement. And you don't have to run. We do rocking events too, whatever you're comfortable with, and continue to promote that and to pull more people into, just moving and being healthy.
I absolutely love
Yeah.
that. My daughter and I are running a marathon next month, so I'm all
Yeah.
in when it comes to running. So
So we ran our last half in November as a group. And the three of us that did run the half, we thought long and hard about a marathon. I don't think we're all there yet. Two of the girls are actually on lease up communities, which tells me that they're fairly working 60 hours a week. And so we're trying to figure out how, when, and if it's something that we want to make work. So
I highly recommend it.
yeah.
All right, as my final question for you, and then at the very end, I'd like to give you an opportunity to share where people might be able to find out more about you or more about the organization that you're now with.
Yeah.
But is there a book or a podcast or a online newsletter or blog or something? It's like your go-to everyday thing that you listen to and or read or anything like that that really inspires you.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Mel Robbins podcast.
Yep.
Um, and it's something that I started listening to, I'd say about a year ago. And when I need that lift or that pick me up, that's what I turn on. And so several weeks ago, I was going through a transition period between seasonality, wrapping up the holidays, taking on a new opportunity. And I said, I just need to listen to Mel Robbins. And one thing that she had shared, and I try to think back to it every day, is they were just talking about, you are what your thoughts are. If you have negative thoughts, and you're going to be perceived in that way as well, because it's kind of how you're going to, act. And she said, good things keep happening to me. She said, when I was feeling bad and I was in a rut, I had to keep telling myself, good things keep happening to me. I spilled my coffee. Good things keep happening to me. I can afford the coffee. I'm late to work. Good things keep happening to me. I made it safely. And so if I can make any recommendation, is definitely Mel Robbins. She knows how to speak to you, or kind of like a preacher. I'm like, how did she know I needed to hear that? When you
Right.
go to
So you reading
church
my
and you're
mail?
like, they're talking to me. What? And so, if I could make any suggestions, definitely the Mel Robbins podcast. I just love listening to her. And taking that away, I am a reader. I'm a Kindle reader. But I don't really read any inspirational books on there. They're all crime related or crime or romance. Those are not very inspirational. Those are more just to fill my cup.
No worries whatsoever. Well, Misty, this has been a pleasure. I want to give you the opportunity to shout out your company and certainly tell people where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can find out more about me on my LinkedIn page. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Also very heavily active in the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association. at Apartment Association in North Carolina, and at the national level with NAA. And you can find out more about Kairoy Residential at kairoy.com. You will see all of our leadership groups. I love being able to see, who are you working with? You can see all of our team members on our website, learn a little bit more about what we do and the management services that we provide. We've recently expanded in the Southeast, so hence my position and my entry to the company. So thrilled to be there and excited to make an impact on the Southeast.
Well, congratulations on the move. Look forward to your many successes that are upcoming in the future. Certainly applaud you for all the successes that you've enjoyed up to this point in time. And thank you for investing a little bit of time with me this morning. I know time is valuable, and the fact that you took a little bit of time out to spend with me, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you again for inviting me.
All right.